all aboard. Next stop, Chicago Junction.
And welcome to Chicago Junction, the radio program that's all about the amazing world of railroading, both the many facets of this industry and model railroading in general. I am your announcer, Brian Ballou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Chief Electrical Engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, February the 13th, the year 2019. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Oh, thank you, John. And also, I'm going to play the pseudo-host today. And my name is Brian Ballou. I'm a retired Navy, retired railroader, a conductor, engineer. I belong to several organizations like the Chicago chapter NRHS I'm a director of. I am a presenter for Operation Lifesaver to talk about railroad safety to all the people. And several other museums. And just like to play with trains. To my left, I have
Dave DeRuska, retired locomotive engineer, lastly with Metra, but by way of a couple freight railroads too.
You're a real boomer.
Yeah, I'm the boomer, but I really just boomed in Chicago. I wasn't like the true boomer where you boom across the country. But I also am a board member and vice president of the Blackhawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. I have a blog on railroad history, Player with Railroads. And I am the seeming solo promoter of Chicago Railroad History Month. Our goal in 2023 is to celebrate the 175th anniversary of the first train to operate in Chicago. And I was doing a little research, and there's actually 3 dates that have been given as what the first day were.
Ah.
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, I had picked November because I thought November. The Chicago History Museum lists November as when they ran the first train with dignitaries. But then I just saw something else that said October 22nd, and then another one that said October 10th, and they didn't even have the train leaving from Chicago. They had it leaving from Oak Park. So who knows? It's a great
shadow knows.
The shadow knows. It's a great mystery. So here I am. Oh, I also run our Facebook page, Chicago Junction, and I have another Facebook page called Chicago Railroad Historians. The nicest page on Facebook. Nobody says anything nasty. All we care about is history.
Oh, that's good.
Hi, my name is Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, lifelong Lionel collector and operator, and one of the directors of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club.
Well, that's good.
And we'd be remiss to not note our absences today, Ron Stock.
Yeah, we're kind of short on the staff today. Ron Stock is out with building emergencies.
Plumbing issues.
Busted pipes. Dave's not here.
And then we have our instructor, Doug Kenyuk.
Professor Kenyuk.
Yeah, professor.
Who is professoring right now, teaching the unteachable.
Yeah, he decided to try it with real students after practicing on us.
And Ron Schmolin, who was out playing the accordion somewhere, no doubt.
Hopefully.
And our senior miscreant is still on medical leave.
Right. Red Ryan.
Although he sounded really good when he called many of us on Sunday complaining about the resort he is rehabilitating in.
Oh, he didn't like the tea times or what?
Yeah, it could be.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
At Red's age, I think he enjoys complaining for the pure pleasure of
Well,
complaining.
that's senior citizenship. That's part of the privilege of being a senior citizen.
A seenager?
A seenager, yeah.
Yeah, because this way he can complain about it now and then forget about it next week.
Or in an hour.
Yeah. I was giving him a chance.
Oh, okay.
But
But
in the world of railroading, what do we have going on?
what do we have? Well, let's see. We have a lot of stuff going on. I got this Blackhawk chapter newsletter, which is highly informative. We'll skip the political stuff. We don't care about that. New railroad infrastructure improvements planned for the South Loop. The St. Charles Airline bridges have reached their lifespan. They've probably been past their lifespan for the last 40 years.
Yeah, maybe they're getting worn like the Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, right. So the Canadian National has completed preliminary utility work, and then in early 2019 will start reconstructing overpasses at Michigan, Wabash, as well as State, Dearborn, and Clark. Railroad spokesperson said that the bridges of the South Loop that serve freight and passenger trains on the St. Charles Airline are near the end of their service life. The railroad regularly inspects them to ensure they meet the rigorous federal safety standards. CN will also reduce the number of tracks in part of the area from 4 to 1 and realign the track. The realignment will allow for straighter track configuration, improving fluidity and safety. I like that word, fluidity. The new bridge configurations will also allow for street curb straightening and the potential for on-street parking. Workers will rebuild the bridges without the current center pillars, also potentially easing pedestrian crossings. And Amtrak has ordered 75 new Charger locomotives. It's not bad enough that they have them for the Midwest service and a couple other places. And the report I get from one of my engineer friends is they are caca. They are not very good. They have all kinds of problems with them. But Amtrak has decided that they're not much of a problem because they're going to order 75 new more. They will be used primarily for Amtrak's long-distance train service. The new locomotives will be used to replace some of Amtrak's GE P40 and P42 locomotives, some of which have been in service for more than 25 years.
Ooh.
That's a long time.
So when you're out west and the only thing you've seen for 100 miles are sagebrush and cactus, when you break down, they'll be able to get a repair truck to you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. Delivery of the new locomotives will begin in summer 2021. They will be built in Sacramento, California. And there was supposed to be, originally for the Midwest service, there were supposed to be new cars, bi-levels, that were going to be used in the state services, but Sumitomo Nippon Sheiro could not meet the crash test requirements, and they lost the contract, and it's now being built by Siemens in Sacramento, California. I don't know. Why is Siemens the only people that are building locomotives?
I have no idea. Well, why, GE had a good one, then they took care of the problem. The thing is, why are they putting all this new stuff out and not trying them like they used to do? You remember the demonstrators?
Sure, right.
Now, that was a good thing.
Right. Although sometimes, they'd find out, you find out as time goes on, the idiosyncrasies of every locomotive.
Right.
I mean, you could have a demo unit online and run it for thousands of miles and nothing happens, and then you start to find the problems.
Right. Well, it's like when you did, even in the steam days, if you did a batch of locomotives, there was always one hinky one in the batch.
Well, it seems like with the increasing reliance on microprocessors and stuff, it's just it's causing a host of problems. Locomotives drop their loads. They have problems with the MU receptacles getting snow in them and causing wreaking all kinds of havoc with that. So, well, good luck, Amtrak, with your 75 new Charger locomotives.
Yeah. Well, because all the Amtrak locomotives out west are coming here to Chicago.
Yeah.
Though I got to admit, did like the Milwaukee unit.
Yeah. Oh, the new Metro unit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Metro.
Yeah, that paint scheme was nice.
Yeah.
If the engines that are coming to Chicago have never operated in anything other than a warm, occasionally wet environment, what's going to happen when they get exposed to a Chicago winter?
Well, wait a minute. Now we're getting the Cascade locomotives, the
Well,
Pacific
okay.
Coast Service.
Now, these are the ones that are going to Metro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the P-38s.
The F-59s.
Okay.
F-59.
So they've had
EMDs.
some weather tempering.
Yeah. And these are commuter. I mean, they'll be used in commuter service, which is a lot different than long haul, long distance. So what else can I talk about here? Amtrak reveals next steps in Chicago Union Station development. They're getting ready to spend more money over there. I don't know. I think they finally decided that they didn't want to put that gigantic glass box on top of the train station.
No, they said they were going to put a single level.
Yeah, right. So it's not going to be viewable from the street. Well, you know, it's better than what they were going to put up there.
Oh,
The
true.
original was 4 or 5 stories tall. The original concept design.
Yeah, correct.
It looked like a fish tank on top of the Union Station.
It was pretty funny. I think it was universally panned by just about everybody.
Oh,
I don't think
definitely.
anybody liked it. Even the architectural community hated it.
Well, I can't see why someone wouldn't pay, $6 million for a penthouse apartment that all you can see is Willis Tower and air conditioning units.
Well, you can see the south approach is the Union Station if you get the right apartment. Okay, no, I'll take a break here. Let somebody else.
All right.
There was a little blurb on the news last night. Metra is closing. Metra is removing the ticket agent from another station. I'm not sure whether they said it was Waukegan or Winnetka, but whichever one it is, no more ticket agent. So you got to get your tickets online with your new Ventra card, or pay a hyper-exaggerated rate if there's a conductor on the train collecting tickets?
No. If a conductor's collecting tickets, he has to sell you one.
Well, the thing is that if there's an agent on duty, and you purchase...
There will not be.
Okay, but in the original concept of how this worked,
yeah.
If there was an agent on duty and you did not purchase your ticket at a station where an agent was on duty, you paid a penalty on top of that. If there is no more ticket agents, then Metro cannot charge you a penalty because you have no other option than to buy it from the conductor on the train.
That's right.
So you will pay face price for the ticket. It's just the conductors are going to get a bigger workout. But so much has moved to the smartphone technology now. I mean, you ride the train and you see how many people pull out their phone, and I guess the conductors have something that can read it. They have a reader. And, things have changed.
I would imagine there's a small barcode that you just renew the ticket each month.
Yeah. It's understandable that Metro wants to shed the expense of having ticket agents on duty that probably only sell 4 or 5 tickets a day. It does not justify their cost. And they're not letting the people go. They'll just segue them into whatever other jobs they can do, coach cleaner, janitor, because that's what the clerks are. Basically, they can make them
sanitary tank dumper.
They can do whatever, shoveling. Oh no, they can't shovel platforms. That's B&B, but they'll find work for them. It's just that they won't be working as ticket agents anymore. So those ticket offices will be vacant and empty, and I don't know. They had there was a station at 95th Street on the Beverly Sub. And somebody just moved a coffee house into that ticket office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing. They had a coffee house in there before, and it failed miserably because the passengers, they just show up and get on the train. They don't come early to get a cup of coffee, and they just get there, get on the train, and go. And these people are trying to stay open late into the evening, and I wish them luck. It's not a really...
conducive.
Well, it's set back off the street for one, so there's no way that people know it looks like a train station. I don't know if Metro's allowed to put any signage out there. And they got to be paying an arm and a leg because Metro does not let any piece of real estate go cheaply. They had a convenience store at Kensington that went down the hill. They couldn't afford to keep that place open.
Why?
Metro was charging them too much in rent.
Why didn't they just buy the building outright?
Well, I don't know. Metro probably
I
didn't
mean,
want to
that's
sell
what-
it. Metro wouldn't sell it.
I mean, that's what happened with the station in Flossmoor. The husband-wife team bought it.
Yeah, but was that Metro's or was that Amtrak's?
Metris.
Okay.
Flossmoor station was Metris.
Right.
And they decided, well, they don't need the station because they use the middle platform.
Right.
The Flossmoor station, the couple that bought it, turned it into a really nice.
They're a microbrewery restaurant.
Yeah. And they follow in your footsteps, Uncle Brian. They got a very nice G scale that runs around the ceiling.
And they got some great pictures on the wall too.
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
do.
do.
Really nice pictures.
The food in their dining room isn't exotic, but it's good.
Yeah, it's solid. It's solid bar food.
It is.
Pub food, I'd
I mean,
call it.
Yeah, they the brew that they serve is good.
My son likes it.
Well, there we go.
He and his friends will drive from Orland Park to Flossmoor for the home brew.
Well, we have a friend who lives down in Homewood, and every year after his open house, a lot of us are staying there, and we had about 20 people that trudge on over to the Flossmoor station to eat, and it's great.
You know,
Well, I can always tell when you guys are there. There's a bunch of hand cars parked at the curb.
they got the caboose there that they turned into an ice cream parlor.
That is.
Yeah.
with the
I
kids.
pull up there one day, right by the end of the caboose, right, and there's this little kid with a ice cream cone. I open up the door and I go, "Hey, can I get a lick of that?" He's holding it out for me. Then his mom grabs his arm, like, "Don't talk to that pervert."
I didn't realize
No, I
his
did
mom
that
knew
too.
you.
No, you can tell right away when you look at me.
Yes.
I have that wild-eyed look. Oh, what's going on?
For the excursion fans,
Oh boy.
20th Century Railroad Club has got their 42nd annual Galesburg Railroad Days coming up. $60 per adult, $30 per child, and they're offering an add-on trip. Trip 19B offers the option to stay on board through Galesburg to Quincy, where you will travel by bus to Hannibal, Missouri, to enjoy the opportunity to explore Mark Twain's boyhood home and an optional boat cruise. More information on it at the 20th Century Railroad Club website. And also the 19th of July, they got a 3-day, 2-nighter going to Greenfield Village, home of the Henry Ford Museum of Innovation. Let me straighten out my front teeth. Again, at their website, www.20th, the word century spelled out, .org on the internet or on their Facebook website.
Well, Space, there is a new Facebook page up. They just announced it. I guess it was yesterday or today. The Age of Steam Roundhouse has a Facebook page now,
Cool.
so people can find out their information by going on Facebook.
What locomotive is currently being moved to where? I keep on seeing stuff on Facebook. They're moving a rather large steam locomotive. What can you report, Brian?
Well, let's see. It could be engine number 576.
Yeah, that's probably it.
It's the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis. Yellow Jacket, 484 that was at a park.
Yeah.
They moved it 2 miles to a railhead so they can get it to another area to start rebuilding it. They'll be running on the Nashville Eastern. And they already have the new owners, actually, of the Nashville and Eastern is the R.J. Corman. They took over and bought the not only the freight setup with them, with the N&E, but also the Star commuter service.
Oh, Music City.
Yep.
Yeah. Nashville.
Yep.
That's the engine that they want to use to run along the river.
All right. Work crew successfully moved the NC St. Louis 576 from its longtime resting place at Nashville Centennial Park to a rail line 2 miles away. That did make national news.
Yeah.
The move took place January 13th. The 1940 steam locomotive drew visitors and had been featured on country music covers. But the intent now is to get it chugging along for touring trips between Nashville and Watertown. It's been a great fixture at Centennial Park, but it is an industrial machine that requires constant care and maintenance for its long-term preservation, and the best way to do it is actually make it operable. Following the old saying, Doyle McCormick once said, you know what's the worst thing about a steam locomotive? Not operating it. Do you know what the worst thing about a steam locomotive is?
Operating it.
Operating it.
I heard that the court threw out the injunction from the pigeons that they were losing their home.
It's been a great fixture. Okay. Nashville's the Preservation Society had raised more than $500,000
Wow.
for the move, for the relocation, and notes that the 567 has made a nice photo backdrop for Hank Snow and John Cash and countless tourists. But the steam engine can only show its industrial power through motion. You see the sights, you hear the sounds of the various tools, appliances, and steaming and the exhaust everywhere. It's really a sensory experience. In its day, from 42 to 52, the engine logged hundreds of thousands of miles carrying World War II supplies and then passengers over the railway. After the successful move, preservation needed to raise an estimated $1.5 million. So that'll be gritty, labor-intense restoration with ongoing maintenance that requires forklifts, cranes, and the kind of work that restorers say is impossible to do in a public park. Brian says it's a doable project thanks in part to the team to help get many of the other steam locomotives back in operation. One of our main missions is the organization to educate the next generation on how to maintain these machines and how these new parts, how to build the new parts and how to weld. He said, once finished, the train will run 90-mile round trips to Watertown, similar to heritage tourism. Rides now available from the Tennessee Central Railway Museum.
So where are they doing the restoration?
They've got an industrial complex they're moving to. That's got an empty warehouse
Okay.
that they could put it next to.
I have been to Centennial Park with my grandkids when they were living in Nashville and saw that engine, and it may be worth the 8-hour drive to see it again once it's up and running.
Always. Always. Speaking of which, the big boy.
Big boy.
Please.
Well, 2 weeks ago, did its first pressure test with air. Looking for leaks that way. Tight as a drum, went up to 300 psi. And then they are getting ready to finish putting some finishing touches on They got the wheels under it and everything else, and they're hooking up a lot of things. Pretty soon they're going to, they will water test it, pressurized, and then they'll torch it. They say they're having, I guess the tender is not as far along as they want it to be, so they might be using, because the Challenger goes in for its overhaul, they might use the Challenger tender behind it.
Now, is the Challenger working off of oil as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they converted that in 91. They had already converted several of the Challengers during World War II, and they did that also with the Big Boy, a couple of them.
This might be our call-in.
I'd rather see them take their time and do it right.
Hello? Hello? Come on. Get up out of here. Go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, they converted the Challenger back in 91. They had one of the saved Challengers on display had a conversion, so they got the tender from it and pulled the oil tank out of it, and then took all the equipment out of the locomotive, and then did the change in.
Yeah, hi Robert, it's Dave Daruska. You called me?
And what was nice was, even after they did the test, they did a run to Omaha from Cheyenne with a double stack train.
Ooh, nice.
Came in with 4 diesels. They were given, they went 15 minutes over the time limit that they had set.
All right, thanks.
Because of track work. They were slowed down. But they traveled an average of 65 miles an hour.
That's
Pulling the
not
double
too
stack car.
shabby.
No.
That was our call-in guest. He said the number that I gave him was disconnected.
So it should be coming in soon.
Yeah.
We've been talking on and off about Menards and the inroads that they're making into the railroading hobby. And they have come out with a pre-built, pre-lit Taco Bell complete with a drive-through and 2 cars that light up. And they've taken the ever-popular building that's been the basis for the apartment building under construction and one police plaza, and it's now a parking garage with shops on the first floor and 4 parking decks and signage and people, and it's illuminated, and they're cut a deal with Woodland Scenics, and they're just making unbelievable stuff. And they've got a fire station out now with an ambulance that I actually saw in one of the stores. So I mean, they're putting their foot down that they're going to be a major player.
Well, considering what they've done in the last couple of years, good luck to them.
Yeah. They even have the Dave's Garage. It's a facade. It's just a face and a portico and a little bit of paving in front of it, which is a good way to hide a back wall. They're just doing great stuff, and they've also released another set of container boxes, including some very nice CSX transportation container boxes in 2-packs and 6-packs. There was just an email on that today. And they're putting, I walked into Menards. The wife wanted stuff, pick out whatever you want to put on the list of stuff, and it's stuff. And there was a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot deep cardboard box full of 143 scale vehicles, $3 a piece. And I looked around in there and found a 65 Ford Mustang GT 350 and a Shelby Cobra 427 cubic inch in British racing green with white stripes and the chrome roll bar behind the left-hand, the American left-hand drive. Shelby built it as Carroll Shelby built it as an American car, but I mean it's beautiful for $3. I'll drink McDonald's coffee and force myself not to drink Starbucks. And then I showed Brian and Dave earlier what had started out in life, I believe, as a 1958 Florida State Road Patrol squad car that, with a little tender loving care, has been converted into a 1958 Chicago Police Department car. The old white over black pre-O.W. Wilson paint job. So now if I can just find a 1955 Ford panel wagon, I can build a squadrille, and I'll have 2 squad cars and a squadrille for when I want to just put 1950s, early 1960s stuff out with the train. But, if you're going to do a time frame, you got to get the right vehicles to go with it.
Well, that is true. But we have fun in model railroading.
The only thing that stops you with model railroading is how much space your wife will let you have and the limits of your imagination.
That's it. I mean, I do like the last issue of Classic Toy Trains. I picked it up, and it had that story about the layout they built for the TV show Sheldon.
Oh, that was last month. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said, the last issue. That's the new issue.
Yeah, the new issue has somebody is fortunate enough to own a wind-up Tunerville trolley.
That's good.
But, they had the layout from The Sopranos a couple of years ago, too.
Yes, they did. And it was made by a company in Jersey.
Jersey.
Yeah. Mountain. Speaking of people moving, one of our favorite topics was talking about the way New York State handles lines and putting it to trails. Now in the state of New Hampshire, city that has 2 short lines and tourist lines. The city of Lacona is spending almost $40,000 to study options for extending their WOW Trail. The Winnipesaukee OPG Winnipesaukee Trail that runs mostly alongside the rail line from Belmont to Lacona, where it ends the trail to their Weirs Beach. Their options they are studying to extend the trail are controversial, as homeowners in a gated community along the track have no desire for the WOW Trail to encroach upon their neighborhood. Also being studied is the potential of removing track from Lakeport to Weirs Beach, cutting the rail line. Like up at Lake Placid in New York. And The area that is being discussed involves the south end of the Winnipesaukee Scenic Railway trains that run from Ware Beach to Lakeport, a very active portion of the line. The Lackawanna Sun, a local tabloid, editorializes in favor of removing the rail line. The mayor of Lackawanna and the president of the Lackawanna Sun happen to be the same person. Edward Engler. And he has had a bill introduced into the New Hampshire House Committee, SRL 2019-00-363, that would change the status of the state-owned rail lines and give preference to trail development over railroad operations. Currently, the Plymouth and Lincoln enjoys a long-standing heritage railroad rights with its two operations, the Hobo Railroad from Lincoln to Woodstock and Winnipesaukee. All right, let's get the Scenic that runs from Meredith south to Weirs Beach to Lockport, to the trackage rights extended to Silver Lake Road in Lockmere. Tilton, New England Southern has common carrier rights status to move freight on leased portions of the rail line from Concord to South Lake Road, and common carrier rights over the entire portion of the line all the way to Lincoln. Curtin, New Hampshire statutes forbid ripping up rails to make way for trails on state-owned property. New England Southern recently ran and operated a tie extra train with 3 loaded center beam cars from Concord to Meredith, carrying 3,150 new replacement ties, with most of the ties delivered to the Plymouth and Lincoln. The NEGS return trip added MBTA work caboose that was refurbished at the Hobo Shops in Lincoln and headed to Boston. The Wow Trail is very picturesque in places and looks fine with the railroad right-of-way alongside. It's a shame these trails without rails advocates have gone rogue.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you got a bunch of lobotomized NIMBYs trying to tear up track.
No, you've got the mayor of the town that wants to tear it up.
Yeah, right.
That's not a NIMBY.
I did say lobotomized NIMBY.
Yeah, he actually submitted a bill to the Senate, state Senate.
Who's filling his pocket?
He is.
Now, who's putting what in his pocket to prompt this? Because you're not going to get as much out of walkers as you're going to get out of the train.
Yeah, but that's not what the Rails to Trails people claim. They claim that there's going to be a huge boom in tourism once people can walk or bike a trail. I
not
don't know
without
if
restaurants and hotels.
Well, that's going to happen. All these millions of people that are going to be walking these trails are going to just be demanding restaurants.
Yeah, and the people in the gated community are going to give up their homes in the gated community.
Well, they aren't. That's just it. And that's why the mayor says, well, we don't need the train.
Hey, John, did our caller ever call in?
Yeah, he's on the air right now.
Oh, okay. We didn't know.
Nobody said anything.
It's a surprise. Hello.
Ditto.
Hello.
Hello, Robert.
Hi guys. How are you?
Oh, great. Welcome to the frivolity of Chicago Junction.
I was enjoying hearing about the Winnipesaukee up there.
Yeah, it's just as bad as Lake Placid.
So,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Robert Taburn, and I'm the president of the Midwest Rail Rangers. We're a 501c3 nonprofit group. and we provide narration on and educational programs on the South Shore, private rail excursions out of Chicago, and on various group coach charters across the 7-state region here in the Upper Midwest.
We should send you our announcer here, Brian, because he knows everything about railroads.
No. You ain't going to do that. No.
So give us a sample of what people might expect on one of these trips.
Yeah, well, we do. It's really a wide variety of what we do. Our probably most frequent program that people can catch us on out of Chicago is now the South Shoreline. We do programs 2 to 3 weekends per month, year-round on the South Shore, which runs. We do a round trip between Chicago and South Bend, and we have we take up one car of the 8-car train set on the South Shore, and we provide narration, and we tell people about all the interesting things they're seeing outside their window in that 90-mile stretch.
So how does one become a rail ranger?
Well, we're always looking for new volunteers. We have about 10 people in our group. Looking for folks who are great public speakers, enjoy railroads, but also enjoy history and our national and state parks. And they can always contact us at info@Rail Rangers. Rail Rangers is all one word, .org. And it's an all-volunteer organization. We've been around in various forms since about 2012.
So what are I was listening to your voicemail message when I called you back, and
the technical difficulties.
Yeah, right. You were explaining a little bit about how the tours, you don't book the tickets for the trains. You just give tours. Is that correct?
That's correct. And with our South Shore excursions, the nice thing is, if you got nothing to do, for that, no reservations are even needed. Just buy a ticket. We start at Millennium Station on the days that we do our programs. We start at about 8:40 Central Time, and arrive in South Bend about 12:10 Eastern. And then we also do a westbound program that leaves South Bend at 1:05 Eastern and gets back to Chicago Millennium Station at 2:40 p.m. Central Time. And of course, seating's on a first-come, first-served basis. And the cool thing is it's free to all ticket holders. Even if you pay the full fare, it's less than $30 round trip, and you can come and learn a lot of cool stuff, railroad history, but also about the many towns and communities from Chicago's South Side all the way over to Michigan City and South Bend. So we do not sell the tickets, and we just present the free educational programs that come with being a ticket rider on the South Shore.
Okay, and there's a specific schedule for what trains you're on.
Yep, we are on the dates we present programs. You can check out our website. We have them listed all the way for February, March, and April at this point at railrangers, all one word, .org. Or if it's easier for you to remember, Dunes Train, all one word, dunestrain.com. They'll bring you to the same place. And we have all our dates up on there through the end of April. And we're on the 8:40 train out of Chicago and that 1:05 Eastern train out of South Bend Airport Station.
Yeah. I have a friend I would love to send your way. He's an artist and a former South Shore motorman and did advertising work for him. And he would probably come on and heckle you guys. He'd be, that's not right.
I look forward to that.
That's not right.
So I wanted to mention we also do, that's our bread and butter over the last 2 years, and the South Shore has just been absolutely wonderful. Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, McD or whatever you want to call them, or South Shore Line. They've been great to work with, very supportive of our program. But we also do our programs on Amtrak coach charters. If folks charter out an entire Amtrak coach car, they can contract with us to have our volunteers on. We have 5 Amtrak coach charter trips coming up between May and October this spring and summer. And of course, our favorite is the private rail excursions on private cars out of Chicago. We have a couple of those lined up as well, where folks like Friends of the 261, Zephyr Out Tours, and other PAX Rail and other groups out of Chicago will have our volunteers on to narrate 1, 2, 3 day private rail excursions all across the upper Midwest. So the dates and times for all that fun stuff is also up on our website. So we kind of do all three and have a great time doing it on all the different routes out of Chicago.
So you're non-for-profit. How do you fund your organization?
That's a great question. Our main source of funding actually comes from the railroad route guide books that we've written. My wife, who's in the group, and myself and our other 10 volunteers have written and published a series of 12 railroad route guide books out of Chicago. And we spent the past 5-6 years doing this as the main source of funding, and we sell those on our website. And we saw a real need for that because I know Amtrak used to give those little pamphlets out, and those have really become few and far between to tell everybody what's outside their window. So our book sales are actually our number one source of funding. If folks are going to be at the Mad City Rail Show up in Madison, Wisconsin this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we have a table where you can check out our books, and you don't even have to pay shipping and handling on that. And of course, we do take donations from passengers. And our expenses are relatively low. Volunteers cover a lot of their own transportation to Chicago to do the programs. But we got great feedback from the route guide books. Many of them are over 100 pages. A couple of them are over 300 pages. And they really tell you just about every single blade of grass along that train route.
Well, one of our other panelists who isn't here this evening was the one who turned me on to you guys. And I did post a link to your website on our Facebook page, Chicago Junction Radio Show. So I'll probably put up some more stuff, too, especially about the guidebooks. I'm sure that would interest a lot of people.
Yeah, I would definitely appreciate that, and it's kind of fun. We hope to see everybody out on the South Shore. That's it's kind of a fun thing, and I can't think of many things in Chicago that you can do for under $30 for a whole afternoon on the weekends, and it's for families too. We have special programs for kids. The dates listed with an asterisk on our website. We have a Junior Rail Rangers program where kids can come out and earn a little prize for participating. And on the weekends, kids under a certain age ride free on the South Shore too. So really a great family activity too to bring those kids out to and enjoy.
Yeah, Metro would be a good one this weekend. Everything's free on Metro.
I heard that. Well, the South Shore, I believe, is offering free rides one way. I think it's westbound because of trying to get people to come in for the auto show too. So check out their website too. Yeah. In addition to them, there's going to be a lot of people riding Metro this weekend. I think though.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, ride all the lines. Yeah, see if you can get them all in.
And I'll be glad that I'm not working there anymore.
Oh boy.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. I hope good luck with your programs.
Well, thanks so much, and look forward to seeing folks out there on our private cars, Amtrak coach charters, or the South Shore, and look forward to tuning into many Chicago Junction shows in the future.
Okay, we're on the web. We no longer appear on the radio, but we are on the web, and I'll send you the link when we get the show up.
Yes, please do, and we will advertise for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for calling in.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
No, because I knew...
Come on, you want to be a rail ranger, don't you? You think it's a really cool uniform.
I'll go to the website and check it out.
You like uniforms.
Yeah. Several. Okay. One thing, we'll talk Illinois. We'll keep Chicago area.
In Illinois.
The J. Niles Lumber Company Shea number 5 recently finally passed its 1,472-day federal inspection at IRM.
Ah.
And the engine then made a short test run on the main line, pulling 3 coaches. This is the first run by this locomotive at IRM since September 1999. In addition to being brought to federal standards, the work completed in the engine in recent years included new partial front tube sheet, new grate system, new nozzle and smoke box setup. Boiler pressure was also raised from 160 psi to 190. Shade number 5 was built by the Lima Locomotive Works, 1929, operated for the logging industry in the Pacific Northwest for its entire career. It is the only geared locomotive preserved at IRM, and is the first steam locomotive to operate at IRM back in 1966. The engine will be in service supplementing Frisco 210-0, number 1630, in 2019.
Which was just rebuilt as well.
Yes.
The movie star engine.
So they've got 2 good locomotives, 2 good steam locomotives now.
Yep.
Here we're talking about Metra purchasing 3 used F59PH locomotives. Metra's board has approved the purchase of 3 used F59PH locomotives from Progress Rail for $2.5 million. I don't know. Are these the ones that are on the property now?
I don't know. They could be, because I know some were delivered.
Yeah, they were supposed to be buying more than just the original 3 that they got. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a bunch coming.
Yeah. So Metra, this should thrill engineers and conductors everywhere. Metra customers will soon be able to use phone app to report safety and security concerns.
Oh my God! Oh my!
My train's going too fast. The engineer's speeding.
Oh my!
That's when they first they did try that for a while. They rolled that out, and it was like squeal on the crew. You don't know anything about railroading, but please do call in and complain about how they're doing their job. Thank you. So they're gonna, let's see, how much money are they gonna spend on this? $274,000 with the Elerts Corporation to provide be a commuter service provider with an incident reporting systems for smartphones. The work is being funded entirely by FEMA Transit Security Grant Program. Now, I suppose on the surface this is something that people are supposed to be reporting, packages being left on platforms, or swarthy looking people with cameras taking photos of trains, and
Somebody having a heart attack.
yeah, well, that's
Opposed to indigestion because they ate like a fiend at lunch.
well, that's the crew's responsibility. They would call that in. I think this is this isn't sort of an immediacy thing. I believe it's something that they report the incidents on the smartphones. I'm not sure how it's supposed to work. Oh, we provide direct and immediate connection with Metra's police force. Well, there you go. So now the Metro Police can come out and arrest the engineers for going too fast. Grants from VW deal to buy cleaner transit engines. Illinois officials have allocated the first grants to buy cleaner burning engines from an emissions lawsuit settlement Volkswagen reached with federal officials. The Illinois Environmental Protection Agency announced in December that $19 million be used to buy cleaner mass transit trains, cleaner burning public transit trains. I don't know how they're going to do that, and buses. Illinois is receiving $1.8 million. Now, let's see. Metro just spent $2.5 million for 3 used locomotives. I don't think that money's going to go all that far. The Chicago and suburban lines will get to combine $4.2 million to buy 6 natural gas burning and 3 all-electric school buses.
Well, that's going to do a lot for
the
trains.
environment saved. Thank you. Okay.
One of the guys at the club is a school bus driver, and the outfit that he drives for went and replaced about a third of their fleet with LPG buses.
Yeah.
It was great until the first cold snap came, and a third of their fleet never left the yard.
A few things frozen, were they?
The fuel got too cold to burn.
Ouch.
You know, for the average person that has a Coleman lantern or a Coleman stove that they use when they go camping, and you're out in the fall and you get that first cold snap overnight.
Yeah.
And you can't light the stove to boil water for coffee because the LPG gas says that was the early burr special and I'm not leaving the can.
So what do you got to do? Put it under your armpit? Warm it up?
You know something? As long as I got car keys in my pocket, I'll find coffee. I'll walk 2 blocks to get to my car to get a cup of coffee. I used to take my 2-quart thermos with me when we went camping, and at the end of the night when they got ready to pour the coffee out to set the pot so whoever woke up first could light the stove and start the coffee, I'd fill my thermos and just leave it next to the stove, and when I got up in the morning I knew I had a cup of hot coffee waiting for me. Dry socks and hot coffee and anything is tolerable.
Oh, here's something about NICD. The South Shore Line is beginning the search for a company to manufacture new cars the commuter railroad would need for its planned West Corridor project. They authorized President Mike Nolan to contract firms that may be interested in designing and manufacturing 26 new cars that replace 32 existing cars that will be transferred to the West Lake Corridor, which would extend rail service from Hammond 9 miles south to Dyer. NICD has allocated $8 million per year to back bonds to finance the purchase. The cars need to be specifically designed to operate on the South Shore in metro systems. In other words, electric multiple unit cars. We run a very different configuration, different power than anyone else in the country. And it's true. When the IC electrified their system, it was the first time that 1500 volts DC was used. Most of the eastern railroads are high AC.
Right. They were 25,000 volts AC.
Yeah.
They stayed AC because Edison was there.
Yeah.
They did DC here because of Westinghouse.
So all of South Shore's current cars are manufactured by Nippon Sheiro Manufacturing, which has stopped doing business in the United States. Since Nippon Sheiro was most recent work for the shore was to manufacture double-decker cars purchased in 2009, made the car shells in Japan and finished them at a Wisconsin factory, satisfying the Buy America requirement for federal funds used. The process is complicated by the unique design and engineering needed. The 2009 purchase included the opportunity of the South Shore to piggyback on a larger purchase being made by Metro at the same time, which offered saving on engineering and design. So I guess, again, these are going to be double-deckers as opposed to the older single-level cars, and we'll see who nibbles on that. I don't know if they're, maybe the Chinese will want to build them.
Well, that's the way it's going. For some reason, I mean, what's blocking a lot of the U.S. people from building them?
Well, there's no manufacturers. I mean, Siemens. Everybody that builds cars in this country has the components shipped in from somewhere else and assembled here, and then that's called Made in America.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think.
I mean, Bombardier was the same way.
Right, and they're having their problems up in Canada with some kind of orders, I think. So, yeah, it's not easy. It's such an occasional thing too. It's not like there's this great demand for rail cars in this country. It's every once in a while, and then they last for what, 20, 25, 30 years?
Well, they're making them last for 50 years. I mean, How old are the bi-levels, you know?
Right.
And they're still using some of the original Pullmans
Yeah.
and some of the original Buds.
Yeah.
I don't have a railroading background, and I know that you've said previously that the Metro Electric cars that were retired have big problems with asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Is removing the asbestos from those cars such an insurmountable problem that rehabilitating those cars is an absolute no-go?
Well, the cars themselves aren't worth rehabilitating because of the components themselves.
Okay.
I mean, the electrical components, everything on those cars is ancient and aged. The cost of even scrapping the cars is prohibitive because of the cost of properly getting rid of the asbestos. I mean, you can hire a bunch of people to go in there without dust masks on and rip it all out and not worry about them, or you can do as the law says and encase them in plastic and do all that stuff. I mean, now when Metro does car rehabs of their own on their older bi-levels, they do that wrap and go through there and get rid of all the asbestos on the cars. It was a pretty common material to be used. It was good insulation.
I understand that part of it, but I see a lot of. Matter of fact, I saw one today sitting on a siding out in the KYD yard. But if you've got a car, a bi-level, that's got a good stainless steel shell.
Well, those are the new ones. Those are the new cars.
Yeah, those are the new cars you're seeing out there.
Yeah, the old cars were what?
Well, it didn't
carbon steel.
Didn't have any catenary on top of
No,
it.
it's a regular diesel coach. They do rehabs for diesel stuff out there too. That's one of their main rehab shops for cars.
Okay.
That and the Rocket House at 47th Street, and I don't know if they do car rehabs at Western Avenue or not. I think that's just maybe
No,
strictly
that's not there.
locomotive.
California Avenue
Caleb on the
on the Northwestern.
yeah,
UP. Excuse me.
Up by there.
up by there.
Up by there.
Up by there, that auto yard, the auto yard that they got there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the cars get towed,
That's where to get it done.
and then they get stripped.
Oh,
up
Lincoln Park Pirates.
Up by where Boston's used to be.
Boston's. Oh, is that a restaurant?
It was a very, very good Italian beef and Polish sausage place.
Was that
but
at that
they're
angled
gone.
corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I remember that. I used to go there on my layovers.
Yeah.
So
They were reasonably priced.
yeah, right. Here's the end result of chutzpah. Northwest Indiana scrap dealer convicted of raising historic bridge.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Federal jury has convicted a Northwestern Indiana scrap metal dealer of interstate transportation of stolen goods for allegedly demolishing a historic railroad bridge and selling the metal. 68-year-old Kenneth R. Morrison, owner of TK Metals in Whiting, was convicted on December 13th following a 4-day trial. He's scheduled for sentencing on March 21st. Prosecutors said Morrison and a work crew cut up the unused Monon Bridge that spanned the Grand Calumet River near downtown Hamilton and sold it to Illinois scrap yards for $18,000. He also allegedly sold part of the part of it to an East Chicago scrap dealer. Morrison's defense attorney told jurors his clients believed the Monon Bridge was abandoned property. The prosecutor said Morrison knew the city of Hammond owned it because he twice unsuccessfully sought work permits from Hammond to scrap it. I didn't know somebody owned it. I thought it was abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this car in front of my house the other day. It's been there for 2 days. I think it's abandoned. I think I'll take the tires off of it.
Oh, my.
My. Oh, let's see. Anything else in here? Illinois Railway Museum acquires 1920 North Shore Line car from Indiana Transportation Museum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says the Illinois Railway Museum in Union acquired North Shore Line Car 172 from the Indiana Transportation Museum. It arrived at IRM on December 7th. That's the big fire sale at the Indiana Transportation Museum following the attack of the Trail People. Car 172 is an example of a steel-body interurban railway coach of a type that was common in the Midwest. It was built by the Cincinnati Car Company in 1927 and featured a varnished mahogany interior, electric motors, and controls designed for high-speed operation. The museum's intention is to rehabilitate the car and operate it for the benefit of museum visitors. So I guess they're not going to keep it a line car and let the visitors to the museum experience working on high-voltage power lines.
I mean, you really want to give a good experience. You got to have the hands-on.
Yeah, right. Splice that wire together.
Did that once. No, thank you.
Splice that wire. Yeah, we've got it turned off. No problem. National Park Service has approved Sioux City's Milwaukee shops at a federally designated historic district listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The 30-acre Milwaukee Road Shop site was built between 1916 and 1918 by the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad to house their roundhouse, locomotive, and car repair shops and steam engine terminal for their rail networks in Iowa and the Dakotas. In its day, the 38-building repair shop facility was touted as the railroad company's second largest, according to the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association. The National Register of Historic Places recognized the site because of its historic significance to the area. The site today has 12 historic buildings and structures, 16 industrial archaeological sites, 13 industrial heritage objects, and a rail yard. More than 585 shopmen and railroad workers were employed at the Sioux City roundhouse, repair shops, and engine terminal decades ago. The shops are downsized beginning in the 1950s. Many of the buildings were demolished, and the shops are repurposed to repair diesel locomotives. A local businessman bought the site in 1981, and after a bankruptcy, and converted it to a salvage yard. The site became home to the Sioux City Railroad Museum in 1995 after the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association purchased the complex. The group has spent more than 20 years working to preserve and transform the site. Well, good for them. More power to them.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Uncle Brian, back me up on this one if you would. The Fox Valley Railway Museum.
Yeah, Trolley Museum.
Okay. I got handed a flyer about 6 weeks ago up in Schaumburg at the World's Greatest Hobby Show. And I'm trying to remember, but I think it's April 27th and 28th. They're going to have their World War II reenactment weekend with how the trolleys operated during World War II and the reenactors and everything. Did that ring any bells with you?
It doesn't ring any bells, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. You have to go to the Fox, to their website.
I'll have to see if I can find that the handout, because the guy handed it to me late on Sunday afternoon, and at that point the only thing I was thinking about was how bad my feet hurt and how soon we could break the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club drag strip down and pack it up and go home.
There's a glass of scotch waiting for you at the end of the line.
Oh, yeah.
I hope it's single malt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there. I was looking at the new Lionel catalog in last year's.
The new one? The big book?
Yeah. I got it in the mail. I'm still a member of lots.
I'm waiting for mine to come in. I have the online version.
Yeah, because I saw that, because I ordered a couple things out of it. They now have a trackmobile for Area 51. So I can use that to move around my spaceman cars. Anyway.
Well, they do have the Area 51 diesel set.
Yeah.
and they have that.
And I'm really, I did buy the Area 51 diesel with their little rail chief thingy. And then when I found out I can't use it with the transformer.
No, it's got to.
I have to have
operation.
I mean, it has to have its own private track.
Manufactured in another planet, no doubt.
Yes. It is not compatible with the other alien, the Crater Lake set or the Area 51 recovery set. Anyway,
are we running out of time?
You know, they have said that Mirage train they came up with, the futuristic train that they clad 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
The see-through plastic. That'd go great with your Area 51 sets.
but see, that's just it,
But I think that's conventional.
Yeah. The first two sets were conventional too.
So is the track size different, or is it?
No, the
controls.
The controls.
So you need a separate transformer or something?
It have to have its own separate track with it. It only works with the rail chief has their own controller. It's geared for that locomotive and that locomotive alone.
Oh,
And,
tricky.
yeah. Now I could use a regular transformer, but what it is, I got to keep the transformer on full, so that way I can control the train. But I cannot run another train with it.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys that just don't want to go to the Legacy or the Vision. So now the Lion Chief and the Lion Roar sets are very, very popular because you can run them. You just set the track up for conventional operation, and you can use the little handheld.
I've got my TMCC. I still use that. I haven't bought the Legacy yet.
I've got a complete TMCC set at home that's never been out of the box.
That's a collector for mint.
Speaking of model railroads, have you seen the video called John Dokes?
Oh yeah.
In the model railroad?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh yeah. Behind the eight ball. Good old Dokes.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Is that a black and white movie?
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen
15 minute.
Someone dragged it up, and they know I like trains, and they sent it to me.
Yeah. I like the part where he walks into the hobby store and he buys a piece of track for everybody. He's like, yeah, that track's on. There's a piece of track for everybody.
Breaks out his paycheck. Yeah. I want that switch tower.
More track.
And then set the train up for dinner.
For dinner, yeah. The gravy train. That was my.
Right in the mother-in-law's lap.
I don't know if he stole that from Jackie Gleason or Jackie Gleason stole it from him.
More than likely, they stole it from him.
Reginald, whatever his name was.
Things got swell with Lionel.
He's sitting in the chair in the lounging jacket or smoking jacket or whatever the correct name for it is, and the train pulls up with a single shot on a flat car.
Yep. And he sat there. Things go swell with Lionel.
Yep. His Jackie Gleason's personal train car is sitting down at the Tennessee Central Railroad Museum in Nashville.
Yep.
It's a square-ended, open observation car, and there's a panel on the side that's it's the fluted stainless steel, but it's got this 3-foot by 4-foot panel, and I don't know what was on it originally, but what's on there as of 5 years ago, last time I saw it, it says The Office. Because Jackie Gleason had a phobia of flying, just like John Madden but Jackie Gleason had the wherewithal to have a private rail car, and John Madden just had the customized Greyhound bus.
No, he traveled Amtrak for a while. Okay. Well, looks like we are coming to the end of the line, guys.
Yeah, I see the bumping post ahead.
Yes.
That's
But that's what I was saying. We got off track when I said the end of the line. That's what they call their Halloween train now. End of the line.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. If you want it, you got to have the Traveling Wilbury song. They came out with a song, End of the Line,
Right.
and when they recorded it, when they went to do the video, one of their members had passed away, Orbison.
Yeah.
And if you look at the video, they filmed it on Sierra.
Okay.
They were in a baggage car.
Right.
Had Bob Dylan there with them, George Harrison, Petty, and they had a picture of a rocker with Roy Orbison in it. But yeah, that's what. And their song was "End of the Line." And there was a made-for-TV movie called "End of the Line." Mary Steenburgen did it. Wilford Brimley was in it. And it was about a railroad that went belly up. And the company decided to become a freight carrier. They just fired everybody and said, we're doing airlines next week. And so they stole a train and went to Chicago. Yeah, Wilford Brimley did.
I'm going to have to
Trust
check that
me.
out. That's
It's called End of the Line.
okay. Wow, sounds interesting.
Mary Steenburgen, Wilford Brimley's in it, and a couple other character actors.
Sounds interesting.
But Mary Steenburgen was one of the producers of it, and many people buy it because her family was actually railroaders.
Okay. The guy who played the husband on Family Ties,
Yes.
Yeah,
he
Michael
comes from
Gross.
a railroad family.
He was a host of a
Historian.
railroad show for a while.
Yeah.
He comes from a railroad family. That's how they got him to do the. He did a couple of railway safety.
He did Operation Lifesaver.
Yeah.
Did he do Tracks Ahead too, or is that just?
He did a couple of tracks. They talked to him on Tracks Ahead.
Yeah.
He did do a piece that they did on the Daylight. He was the narrator for that in the history of the Daylight DVD. But yeah, we actually, when I was in San Diego with the Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, our annual banquet we had him as a guest speaker. He got on there and talked about it. We were on the Berkeley, as where we had our dinner. The railroad ferry that used to be up in San Francisco. They had down there, and he was talking about it and everything. It was part of the Southern Pacific system. Very good. And when they did the statewide Operation Lifesaver Express, he was on it. And they had a locomotive from each railroad. So when it's on like the UP Railroad, the UPE unit was on it. They had the SPE unit on there. They had a Santa Fe FP45 and Amtrak unit. And they all took turns and went around all those states. Very, very knowledgeable in what he was talking about. And yes, he is definitely a rail enthusiast.
It's no secret that I shamelessly plugged the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club. I'll hand anybody with a kid a card, and I'm surprised by the number of people who tell me, well, his grandfather worked for the railroad, or, my dad worked for the railroad. I've even had guys sitting there, you get grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and the kids, and grandpa says, I just retired from such and such railroad. And, we collectively don't realize how many people in America have ties to the railroad. You know, I knew growing up that my aunt worked for the Baltimore and Ohio. I didn't know until about 20 years ago that my mom had worked for the Rock Island from 1943 to 1950. You know, she graduated high school. My dad was in the Army. She went to work for the Rock Island. They got married in 47, and then she resigned from the Rock in 50 when I ruined her figure. You know, decided instead of, you know, leaving the money in the railroad retirement, she'd take it as a, you know, medical benefit to cover the hospital work. You know, completely different personality than her sister. Her sister was happy taking trainloads of kids to Washington, D.C.
But yeah, well, like I found out my grandfather. No, I knew he was in the coal industry, but he got into it through the company that he worked for. He worked for the coal division of the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. So he was one. His specialty was anthracite.
The old infamous interlocking directorates.
Anyway, I believe it is time for us to say adieu.
Adieu.
So happy rails to you from Kevin, Dave, and myself.
Toodaloo.
Wait till next month and we'll screw it up again.
Yeah, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please gather your belongings and your children and take them with you when you leave the train.
As our express comes into the station, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all of our past episodes and also sample some of the other programs that are being offered. Again, this is your announcer, Brian Ballou. Till next month, when we journey to Chicago Junction.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Wednesday, February the 13th, the year 2019. Chicago Junction was produced and directed by John DeVito, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, February the 13th, the year 2019. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening.